So now let's dive into how the mind actually works in relation to what we just spoke about when it comes to you. Let's dive in. So why are you here watching this training? Well, you're more than likely here watching this training or in this community or part of this program because of fear, doubt, procrastination, lack of focus, negative thoughts, inconsistency, guilt, shame, frustration, anger, obsession. These are a few of the things that may be stopping you from really tapping into your true potential and being able to execute at an extremely high level that you would like to be executing at, okay? And really what we're trying to do is transform this into limitless, confident, creative, fearless, consistency, powerful, unbreakable, high performance, and everything else that comes with that, right? There's plenty of words we could use here, but these are the main ones that we're trying to focus on, okay? So let's break it down, okay? Let's do a quick recap. You have a body, which is your vehicle, how you operate, how you move around, right? You can mold that into whatever you want. And really, when it comes to this training specifically, there's no further explanation needed with that. You also have a mind, a collection of images that we mentioned here, that acts as a storage unit, a library of memories, events that all have energy attached to them, okay? If you think about anything that has ever happened in your life, you can recall it. It can either be pleasant or it could be negative or it could be completely neutral, right? That's really what we're going to be breaking down inside of this video. So firstly, when we look at energy, energy is the potential of motion or power that comes from a physical or a mental activity, the force that causes things to move, okay? So the energy that we spoke about when it comes to these mental images, events, everything that we talked about here in this library, okay? So energy creates these charges in the mind based on emotions attached to these memories, which leads to blocks in our perception of reality, okay? And what I mean by this is that it's kind of related to like a battery, for example, okay? You have a positive pole and you have a negative pole, okay? It's the principle of polarity, which we'll get into in later videos. And really what we're trying to do here is we're trying to balance these things out so that we can see things very, very clearly. But let's break it down a little bit further, okay? The universe will always strive for balance. This is something just to kind of remember as we go throughout this whole training. It's kind of like a thermostat, okay? If you're hungry, you get a signal to eat. If you're cold, you get a signal to warm up. When things are bad, you try to make them good again. It's always striving for balance in the simplest ways and also in the most complicated ways, in the ways that you're not even seeing happen on a day-to-day basis. Like nature and the universe and everything is kind of operating on its whole other level that we're not even aware of, right? But it's always striving for balance, okay? And the simplest way to do that. So let's go deeper on all of this, right? If we look at the mind specifically, we have a library of past events that have happened in the mind, okay? And these images are stored on the mind, but can be looked at whenever you decide to look at them. If we were to think about something that happened 30 minutes ago, you can recall that image in your mind. Now, if you went through a traumatic experience in the last 30, 40 minutes, right, you'll be able to call that back, and maybe it'll be a little bit uncomfortable for you to remember that, and all of the emotions and feelings that come from that will come up again, okay? If you think of something that happened in your past that wasn't the most desirable event, something will come up and you'll probably get a weird feeling or emotion attached to that where it won't be comfortable or you'll feel some sort of friction towards it, okay? That's exactly what happens when you recall these images, whether they're positive or whether they're negative, okay? So let's go deeper. If we have a perceived positive event, okay, we have this library here and we have this green icon here, which is, let's say, a positive event that have happened in our mind that we can recall comfortably. If you think about a recent event where you had a great time, you close your eyes and you focus on it, okay? Maybe even just go ahead and close your eyes right now. Give it a couple of seconds and just recall an event that have happened in your life. Maybe it could have been a couple of days ago. It could have been this morning, where it was pleasurable, where you remember it and you can immediately bring it up. Maybe you went for a walk. Maybe you spent time with a loved one. Maybe you took your dog for a walk. Maybe it was something simple. Maybe something great happened. Think about it for a second. You can recall that image in your mind when you close your eyes. Everything that was attached to that, everything that was there in that moment, you can remember it, okay? So what this is doing is that you're bringing up the image picture that has happened from this particular event in your mind so that you can go ahead and basically relive it in your mind specifically, okay? So let's look at what this is actually doing. So what you're doing here, when you have this positive association with this positive event, you are basically saying that there is more positives to this event than there is negatives, okay? You found more reasons why this was good and had benefits or was pleasant or positive than negative, right? You found less reasons why it was bad or there was drawbacks or there was unpleasant experiences there or negative. When in reality, with this positive event that you perceive to be positive and pleasant and beautiful or whatever, there was an equal amount of negatives as part of this event, but you are only seeing the positives to that. And this is why it's quite easily to recall, because you can just think about it for a second and be like, okay, cool, this was a great event. This was something that I enjoyed. You kind of just brush it off to the side. It was good. No real extra thinking about it. Now, this kind of gets complicated when we look at different events that are negative, okay? Let's say we have a perceived negative event, an event that holds fear or sadness or guilt, shame or frustration or anxiety or doubt. They all really stick to the mind. Some people label this as trauma, for example. It could be, there's no real specific name for it, but it's just a negative event that holds a negative block or a negative charge attached to it, okay? And this, again, is stored in the library of the mind, okay, in all of these image pictures. So events that are perceived as negative stick more than positive because it creates situations that your mind will try to protect you from in the future. Because that's what our mind is here to do. Like, our primal instincts are there to detect danger and stop us experiencing that. So if something has happened to us in the past that we perceive to be as negative, and we hold all these negative emotions that we experienced in it in the past, then we are going to use that to predict the future. And we'll get deeper on that as we go throughout this training, but that's a high level overview of what that looks like. And what is happening in this particular event is that you are subconsciously, in that particular moment where this negative event has happened, where there's guilt or shame or frustration or anger or anything revolved around that, you are seeing more negatives to that event than you are positives. It's likely that, there was almost zero reasons that you thought this event was good or had benefits or was pleasant in some way, okay? And the reason that you are kind of seeing it as more negative is because you see that there was more reasons that there was negative, more reasons that there was drawbacks. You see that there was more negatives and unpleasant things that were attached to that specific experience, okay? And all of these decisions are made subconsciously. They're not made consciously. It's not like you think about something as good or bad. Subconsciously, depending on the emotions that you felt at the time and everything that comes with that as attached to that event, that will be a subconscious decision that you will make in your mind as negative or positive depending on the experience, okay? And the mind doesn't care about nuances. It only cares about, is this positive or is this negative? So for example, let's say you got cheated on. We have the positive pole and we have the negative pole. It's very, very unlikely that you went off and you started seeing the positive side of that situation immediately in your life, okay? When that happens, maybe you made the unconscious decision that women are bad, that you are unworthy, or that you are unlovable in some way, shape, or form. Maybe this is actually tied to another past negative event that have happened in your life where you also felt these things, and this is just a reconfirmation of these things, and you now believe them even deeper to be true about yourself. And the thing is, when this experience is stacked on one side, all of these decisions are made unconsciously, not consciously, okay? You're not just saying, hey, women are bad now. You know consciously that that is not true, but subconsciously, you may be believing this to be the case the other way. So this can be anything considered as a bad thing in a particular moment, okay? Anything that had frustration, anger, depression, anxiety, doubt, embarrassment, fear, guilt, shame. These all lead to beliefs about the world and about yourself, okay? They stack on top of each other and they get logged inside of the mind, staying there until they are dealt with. They will not move forward. They will not just disappear. They will not go away. They're all unconsciously running how you think and how you see the world. And these things will not go away until they're actually faced head on and dealt with. So these lead to the beliefs that you have about the world, right? So there's something that happened in your past, for example, and even if it's the smallest thing that may seem insignificant and you don't even remember it consciously right now, that will be running a certain belief that you have in your life and showing up that way so that you can start to make decisions and you can predict the future in some way, shape, or form to keep you safe. That is what your mind is trying to do. But the thing is, this is all happening subconsciously, not consciously. So let's kind of go deeper on this diagram overall as I break this down, okay? So really what we're looking at here is we have perceived negative events, and maybe these start to stack over time and they start to fill these memories in our library of the mind. They start to fill in with negative events, okay? And really what this is doing is it's causing us, this is you right here, right? Seeing the present as you have interpreted these past events, okay? So the past negative events and beliefs now become the lens for the present moment, okay? So the way that you have interpreted these things that have happened in the past and these feelings and emotions and everything that has come up, you're now using that to make a decision about the present moment as well, okay? Subconsciously. The same thing with the future. These past negative events and beliefs, they become a lens for the future as well. And this is where things get very, very difficult to see, okay? Am I actually seeing this clearly? Or is this just a lens that I'm seeing the world through based on these past experiences. Am I making the best decisions I possibly could to really move myself forward? Or am I being blocked by these lenses that are actually just stopping all of my progress? What this does is that it starts to create perceived negative future events, and that you will try to avoid them at any costs. If we look at these perceived negative events over here on this side, these are from the past, okay? These will start to form the perceived negative future event, okay? So you will see these past events as projections into the future so that you can avoid them at all costs, okay? This is what your mind is doing to protect you. So this will cause you to unknowingly kind of see your reality based on these past events, and these start to create blocks. Because, for example, if you had something that was incredibly negative that happened in your life, and it was based around somebody who did something to you, okay, you are going to subconsciously avoid that type of person in the future. And that type of person could be someone giving you a job opportunity, an opportunity that maybe change your life. It could be an opportunity to network. It could be an opportunity to get potential clients from. Everything that happened in that past event will cause you to subconsciously mistrust people, or be led by the wrong people, or not see an opportunity for what it is and actually run away from it and avoid it at all costs, in the way that your mind is perceiving these past events that are happening in your life. So for example, let's look at the fear of rejection, right? A negative event that may have happened in your life. Maybe there was a family member that you feel rejected by. Maybe there was something that happened very early in your life where you just felt rejected. It could have been through family, it could have been a relationship, it could have been something that you recall as extremely, extremely painful. Now that fear of rejection has now taken over your perception of how you view reality and how you view the present and also the future as well, which means that you go off and you start a business, but now you have this fear of rejection that's really holding a lot of weight behind you, which means that cold calling, sending cold DMs, somebody responding negatively to you is going to trigger these emotions, and it's going to send you in a different direction. And instead of seeing the situation clearly where these rejections are actually just getting closer to a yes and they're not actually positive or negative, there's just somebody's response to you, it actually means nothing. The more you can see that, the more you can actually get the results that you want to get. But if you have these negative events that have happened in your life that are perceived to be negative, they will trigger the actions that you take going forward, which will cause you to go off track. And this is why when it comes to starting something new or trying to grow your income, trying to grow a business, trying to get into entrepreneurship, whatever the case is for you, when you're trying to do these things, having these negative weights that are holding you back in the background is going to stop you from actually taking the massive actions that you need to take. And if you were actually able to remove these things, you'd be able to do things very, very consistently without these limitations, because you would just see them for what they truly are. So that's really what this whole process is about, right? Let's look at another example of this. Let's say that you were somebody who got bullied in school, and let's say that there was a time where you would walk around school or classroom or wherever it was, and there was a big group of people there that passed comments at you, and you felt intimidated by that, and maybe you were younger than them, right? And then that happened every time that you walked past them, or you were scared of these people. That could be something that seems insignificant and just something you have to get on with as you grow older, which is true to an extent. But what this may do is hold that fear and that anxiety in your mind as you go into these later parts of your life, which means that you may not be as inclined to go to in-person events. You may not be as inclined to show up and walk into groups of new people fearlessly, right? You may be confident or feel like you are going to get judged the same way as you did before, which again will stop you from taking the big actions that you need to take to really be able to grow yourself, your business, your income, everything that comes with that. So by removing these things, you stop all of these false perceptions and fears and everything that comes with that, so that you can just execute efficiently on the things that you need to do. And as a final example, there could have been a time in your past before where you felt extremely judged or embarrassed or something happened. And this holds a lot of negative energy and you only saw the negatives in that specific moment. It's likely that in the future, this will stop you from maybe getting on camera, being consistent with content creation, getting out and doing live events, getting out and doing trainings and workshops and things like that would help you grow your income. If these things in the past are holding you back from that, and you have that fear of being judged, or you have judgment or you have guilt or shame around the embarrassment that you felt, then that's going to stop you from taking the actions that you need to take when it comes to putting yourself out there. And really what's happening here is that the longer this lens stays on, the thicker it gets and the more you accept it as reality. And this is the dangerous thing, because the later that you get in your life, these blocks and these barriers and these lenses that we have, the longer that we go throughout our life with these lenses on, the more difficult it is to actually go ahead and start to remove them. And this is why it gets harder to change as you grow older, because you have all of these worldviews and you believe them as pure truth, right? If you've ever talked to someone who is very, very late in their life, it's usually quite difficult for you to come in and start helping them change their way of thinking, or for them to see a new perspective or a new reality, simply because they believe their truth so dearly that they're not going to go ahead and start looking at different new perspectives a lot of the time. Some do, don't get me wrong, but this is just an example of that. So this dictates your actions, fogs your judgment, and stops you from actually thinking clearly, okay? And if you can't think clearly and you're looking at the world through this lens that you're seeing reality through, it's very difficult to actually be confident, act with conviction, right? And be clear on where it is that you're going, okay? Let's say we come back to the example where you got cheated on, right? But when we really start to look at these events, we have to understand that the mind does not care about nuances. It encompasses everything that happened in that past event, everything that's associated with it, as negative. It bunches them into either positive or negative, okay? Which means that, let's say we come back to the example where you get cheated on. Well, let's say you were in an Italian restaurant when you got cheated on. Maybe you got a message. Maybe you somebody texts you, you found out, someone else told you, and you were in New York City at the time, and it was Wednesday, okay? These are all things that are happening in that experience. Now, of course, consciously, these will not make sense, but subconsciously, these are the associations and decisions that you're making in your mind, okay? Women are bad. Wednesday is a bad day, right? Italian restaurants are bad. New York City is bad. I am unworthy. I am unlovable. Yeah, the music genre that was playing in that particular restaurant is bad. Okay, maybe you hear a song that you heard when this thing happened, and anytime you hear that song again, you start to get this weird negative feeling. That's why that happens. Pad Thai chicken is bad. Maybe you were eating Pad Thai chicken at the time, and yet now you associate that dinner, that meal, with this negative event, okay? Now, these are just examples, but these can happen in a variety of different ways throughout our life, okay? And this is where irrational fears come in. If you ever heard of somebody who's just randomly scared or fearful of this random thing to come up and that may or may not come up in their life, that's where these irrational fears come from, because there's some sort of negative association that was part of these past events that they're now seeing as negative. So these are all unconscious decisions and associations, and everything is now negatively charged from this specific experience, okay? But this can even go deeper, because let's say the person who cheated on you was a woman. Let's say she was blonde, okay? Now, when you move forward, you may have a potential client who looks exactly like her, who maybe seems or reminds you of her, but you will subconsciously try to avoid that scenario because it reminds you subconsciously of this person that did this thing to you. So you may hold resentment towards this person who you don't even know. They get very, very strange, but all these things happen. This is where removing these barriers and limitations really come from, so we can actually start to see the world really, really clearly and see everything as neither positive or negative. The moments of pain, right? In the moments of pain, sadness, guilt, shame, embarrassment, fear, the mind puts everything into one category, like we said, okay? And this is really just to keep you safe from all of them in the future. It's really there to serve you. Like, it's not its goal to just ruin your life. But these things don't serve us when it comes to these things that we're trying to achieve, because we're now forming our view of reality, our perception of the world based on these past negative events and these image pictures that have been created. So we need to be able to balance them and remove them so that we can move forward with confidence, clarity, and conviction. This creates the blocks that lead to a lack of focus, procrastination, fear of failure, fear of rejection, inconsistency, etc., etc. In the lens of reality, the past events dictate how you see the future, and then your actions follow that accordingly. So this is all happening subconsciously, right? So let's look at it. Women are bad. Wednesday is bad. Italian restaurants are bad. New York City is bad. Music genre played in restaurants is bad. Pad Thai chicken is bad, okay? This is the mind unconsciously looking out for these things in the future, okay? So it wants to avoid these things as much as possible so that it can keep you safe, leading to things like fear of rejection, lack of trust, could be choosing the wrong partners, okay, because of this false perception, right? People pleasing, it could lead to that because you don't want to get rejected again, okay? Could feeling unworthy because you're not worthy because you got rejected in the past and you only saw it as negative. And when you only see it as negative, it means that you want to avoid that at all costs in the future, which could stop you from growing your business. It could stop you from taking the actions that you need to take, and could lead to people pleasing, could lead to you not showing up as your strong, confident self because you are, trying to please other people to avoid this kind of rejection that happened in the past, okay? Which can lead to, avoiding authority positions in the case of not living up to the expectations of somebody else. Like, these things are all tied into each other and it's all intertwined and tangled up. So we need to be able to pick these things out one by one and really see them for what they truly are, so that we can stop, being led by these things and start to see the world clearly and actually just do the things that we know we need to do. So when you have a lot of negatively charged items in your mind, you get triggered very easily. So if you've ever heard of someone getting triggered, or somebody who is, gets annoyed very easily, or you could say one thing and it would like get them really angry. That's what these blocks and charges actually are, because when you get triggered, it means that there's something there that you have perceived as negative, and it means it has not been balanced out. And that means anytime it comes up, it will trigger you. It will trigger that emotion. It will trigger that past event. It will bring out that image in your mind subconsciously, and you'll be able to relive it in that moment, getting triggered instantly, okay? So as long as these triggers are here, caused by these blocks, it stops you from being fully confident, fully focused, clear and consistent moving forward, right? Because these blocks are shaping your view of reality, okay? Now, this is what this looks like, okay? If you see the world clearly, you do not have this lens on. If you're, being blocked by these barriers, these charges, right? This causes a false view of the world, a false perception of everything that's happening, so that things seem more difficult than they actually are, okay? And the lens is caused by these false perceptions caused by these past events. But when you're seeing the world clearly, you just see things as they are. You see things as neutral. You don't see things as good or bad or positive or negative. You just see them as what they are, and you see them as, is this actually going to serve me based on my goals? Is this going to be something that is valuable to me based on my values and what I'm trying to accomplish? And you can just make clear and concise decisions based on that specifically. But if you have this lens over you, you might see an opportunity, but if it's anything related to a past event or something unconsciously, you are going to avoid it. All of these things are led from these past events and negative perceptions, and also positive perceptions, which we'll get into in later videos. But this causes an imbalance of the view of the world, when in reality, things are extremely, extremely neutral at all times. And the closer we can get to really seeing that, that's where we have true power, true clarity, confidence, and conviction in our every move. So really, to master your mindset is to master your emotions, okay? You remove these lenses by balancing the perceptions of these past events. Okay, that's really all it is. That's how simple it actually can be, but it's not easy. So how do you know if you actually have the lens on or off, or is it actually affecting you or not? If you're experiencing unwanted negative emotions, okay, or you are getting distracted very, very easily, or if you are moving in a different direction than the one that you should be, and you know that you're doing that, and you know that there's some things that you should be doing, but you're not doing them, it's likely that there's some sort of lens over your view of reality where you're experiencing those unwanted negative emotions. So to really master your mind is to really master your emotions and balance your perception, okay? And what this really looks like is balancing each pole. So finding an equal amount of positives and equal amount of negatives in every situation that you can recall, so that you can remove these lenses, okay? And this is what I get into when I work with clients when it comes to the tools, the systems, and the processes to really start to balance out these different things and to really get clarity, confidence, and conviction in every move, okay? And this is the same process for fears, for doubts, for frustrations, guilt, shame, anger, anxiety, depression, grief, loss. All of them can be encompassed within this process and dealt with, and this is something that has served me greatly over these last number of years, okay? Really, what we're trying to do, the core aim, when you respond, you're in control. When you react, you let the world control you, and we do not want to be controlled. Specifically, if we have big goals that we're trying to achieve, we don't want to be reactive. If we want to be really unbreakable, we want to build an unbreakable mind and really be strong in our every move, we must be responsive. And the only way to do that is to actually be in control of our emotions, so that we can have confidence, clarity, conviction, clear thinking, focus, calm. We see the truth of every single situation, and we are powerful within that. So that brings me to the end of this training. Hopefully this was all clear to you. If you have questions, drop them in the community and we'll be able to go through those. But this is really the core aim of everything when it comes to mindset. If you can manage your emotions, you can manage money. If you can manage your emotions, you can manage people. If you can manage your emotions, you can really do anything, because so many people are out there getting pulled in all these different directions, and we want to be able to balance these things that have happened in our past as neutral, seeing the positives, seeing the negatives, going through the processes to be able to really do that and to really go deep into these things, to really subconsciously reframe these things. And when we do that, we have confidence, clarity, and conviction. See you in the next one.